Hello, I'm Bill Bullard with R-CALF USA, the voice of the independent cattle producer in the United States of America. Well, R-CALF USA is now doing a four-part series on the first ever cattle industry long-range plan. And that's the plan that its 13-member board of directors launched in mid-December. The plan provides direction for the U.S. cattle industry, as well as guidance to public policymakers. And on Wednesday, December 30th, several R-CALF USA board members and perhaps others will participate in a Facebook Live meeting to discuss parts 2 of the four-part series. Now, last week's Facebook Live meeting discussed the first and second strategies contained in the plan, and this week's discussion will cover the second and third strategies. The second strategy is to preserve and protect the liberties and freedoms of U.S. independent cattle producers. And the third strategy is to reform the cattle industry's legal and regulatory framework so U.S. cattle producers can protect the marketplace on their own. Now, you could say that these two strategies comprise the heart and soul of the plan, as they speak directly to the core values held by America's independent cattle producers. And regarding the second strategy, the freedom to conduct their individual cattle operations the way they choose, without interference from the heavy hands of government or monopolistic corporations, is a core value embraced by our thousands of cattle producer members. So R-CALF USA's ongoing legal battle to stop the U.S. Department of Agriculture from mandating that every cattle producer uses radio frequency identification ear tags and registers their premises with the government exemplifies adherence to a value system that prioritizes freedom and liberty. So too is R-CALF USA's ongoing legal battle with the Beef Checkoff Program, an action to preserve and protect the freedoms and liberties of U.S. cattle producers. That's because the purpose of the lawsuit is to defend the constitutional rights of cattle producers to not be compelled to fund the private speech of private corporations. Now, honoring the Constitution and fighting to prevent government or government-like monopolies from dictating standards that cattle producers must meet in order to have access to the marketplace are vitally important to ensuring that the U.S. cattle industry, as we know it today, will survive long into the future for generations to come. The third strategy also embraces a core value of independent cattle producers who now definitively know that they have been ill-served by a legal and regulatory system in which they must rely on others within the industry or in government to preserve and protect marketplace competition. America's cattle producers cannot be independent if they continue to depend on government bureaucrats to preserve and protect the very market from which their independence is derived. Now, here's an example of the problem. Cattle producers had to wait years before the government showed any inclination to address what every cattle producer knew was a chronically broken marketplace. And it was not until consumers began to complain that the government showed any meaningful interest in our broken markets. And it was the August 2019 fire in Kansas and the additional market disruptions caused by the COVID-19 pandemic that finally caused the government to begin taking notice of our industry's chronically dysfunctional cattle market. Another relevant example, though much older as it occurred back in the mid-2000s, was when the government tried to reopen the Canadian border to live cattle while Canada was still detecting multiple cases of BSE or mad cow disease without being able to identify how their cattle were becoming infected. Now, R-CALF USA filed and obtained 3 preliminary injunctions that kept the high-risk cattle from entering our country for over 2 years. And American cattle producers were rewarded for their efforts to protect the safety of their U.S. cattle herd. In fact, in 2005, at which time Canadian cattle imports had been banned for 2 years, the national average returns to U.S. cattle producers jumped to $108.71 per bred cow, which was the third highest level in several decades, surpassed only in 2014 and 15. These examples demonstrate that independent cattle producers must play a much larger role in protecting competition in the marketplace and the safety of their herd. And if the cattle industry supports the new long-range plan, cattle producers can finally make that happen. Please join us on Facebook Live on Wednesday, December 30th at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time to learn more about the new cattle industry long-range plan. And you can also go to our website at R-CALF USA to join with us so we are strong enough to direct your U.S. cattle industry towards a more profitable and prosperous future for yourselves and your children. With that, from all of us here at R-CALF USA, we wish you a very happy new year. Thank you and goodbye.